I'm pleased to say we're joined by the 16-time champion of the world, Phil Taylor. Thanks for joining us, Phil. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Just up in Geordieland at the minute.
Yeah, you mentioned you're up in Newcastle when we're talking on this Thursday morning.
Right by the big bridge, the big half-circle bridge, which is like an icon of Newcastle, right by the river.
So what brings you to Geordieland this week?
Just doing questions and answers tonight. A little bit of after dinner.
Well, it's the first time that we've had you on as a guest on our podcast, so there's lots to talk about looking at your career. What are your earliest memories of darts? Did you play much as a kid?
Yeah, I mean, darts was in the house, because when I was little, when I was like 4 or 5 years old, we had no TVs then. Mum and Dad couldn't afford a TV. So everything was around games then, I suppose, indoor games. So we had hoops, where they had a thing on the back of the door, you could chuck like circles on hoops. Dominoes, cards, darts, everything was based around games in them days, just to keep myself occupied, I suppose. They didn't have anything. I mean, I used to say to my mother, why did everybody leave the doors open? You know, you could just walk in. She says, we had nothing to pinch. Now to nick. So that was the reason. She says, well, you could break in, but you nothing nick. Nothing you could take away.
Well, it wasn't until your mid-20s that you started to take darts more seriously. You were playing for your county Super League teams, and the help of Eric Bristow, he put some money behind you. How did that relationship with Eric, at the time the world's best player, first come about?
It was exciting, I suppose. I mean, you've got dreams, haven't you? Like, you know, you were the best player in the world at the time, and the most famous dart player in the world, who was like practicing with you now and again. And he's trying to teach you different finishes. So there's not a lot you can teach somebody in dart. You can teach them like certain finishes and why you go that way, and give you advice on certain things. But I enjoyed it with Eric. It was exciting. I mean, a lot of jealousy from other county players, obviously, you know, because there's other players that wanted to practice with him. So you did get a lot of jealousy and a lot of backbiting in them days. Well, in any job you do, you know, anybody that starts getting successful in a job, you'll always get people jealous of you. But I was a bit aggressive and I wasn't bothered, so I moved forward and I went to Canada, the first one, I won it, and that put me into the World Championships and in 1990, which I beat Eric in the final. And that was the launch of my career then. It was strange because it's like an anticlimax. You've done what you want, you know, you dreamed of, and you're world champion and everything's not the same then. Now you've got to, you know, defend it and move on and do other things.
Well, you mentioned that first world title, the first of 16 back in 1990. It was on your debut at the Lakeside. What do you remember about that week at Lakeside?
What the most frightening thing for me was, I was playing, I think it was Russell Stewart first round, who was a good player, ranked then. And he was a good player. And Eric said, if you get past that first round, because you're going to be nervous, then you've got a chance of doing well in it. And that was my main focus point. I used to borrow videos off Eric. He had everything taped on VHS. And I was sitting studying certain players, well, every player basically, like the weaknesses or the strengths. So I'd watch him and think, he's good around that area. So certain shots change the game. So in my mind, I was thinking, right, if you can put this out now, that'll put him off. You know, and break his confidence a little bit. And that's what I used to do. Sit hours watching him.
And a few years later, we see the splitting darts, yourself, Eric, Dennis Priestley, some other players breaking away from the BDO to form the WDC, what is now the PDC. Was there a time during that era when you thought this might not work out for us?
No, never. And I wasn't really bothered. I wasn't too scared. I mean, I only lived in a terraced house, which I paid $7,500 for, so I thought the only thing I can lose is my house, which is $7,500, which was a lot of money to me, don't get me wrong. It was £20, I think it was £20 a month mortgage, which was like paying the earth at them days. But I thought if we lose, you know, because the manufacturers who were our sponsors couldn't sell the products. There was no TV, you know. At the minute, manufacturers now, like my sponsors, Target, I mean, they're flying out. And you need it, you know, you need people like me, you need people like Eric and John Lowe and Jockey on TV, you know, promoting the sport, but they wouldn't promote, they wouldn't set the right people on. You know, we even asked them, we said, we'll promote for you if you want. No, every door was just slammed shut. And we just broke away and thought, well, what's the point? We might as well go his own, you know, form his own company and give it a go, and which we did, and obviously it turned out to be very successful.
Yeah, it definitely worked out in the end. We've seen over the last 30 years the PDC has taken darts to a whole new level. You played at the very top in the PDC for a long time.
Of course it is. It's worldwide now.
Is there one of those titles or a few that stand out from the rest that you're most fond of?
My favourite, even though the World Championship is always going to be the biggest, my favourite was Blackpool. It's always going to be Blackpool for me. It was like a local tournament, and I love the building, just the ambience of this Winter Gardens. It was fantastic. Just walking on stage. There's a shot in Target if you ever walk in there, of me walking on stage with a picture behind showing the whole arena, and it's magical there. And to think you're on a stage as well where people like Shirley Bassey sang, you know what I mean, and all your top stars of the olden days, Cilla Black, the Beatles probably performed there, it's mind-blowing.
Yes, a special venue, and I was going to mention that the World Match Play, the last one that you won your last year on tour, 2017, such a tough draw that you had, but you breezed through it.
That was probably the best one I ever won. When you think about it, I got Gerwin Price first round, I got Michael van Gerwen, Barneveld, Adie, what else had I got?
Peter Wright in the final.
And obviously Peter Wright in the final, it was a tough run through. I think they set me up a little bit.
You're a household name. You helped put darts on the map for a long time, but I wanted to ask, at the height of your fame when you were playing, what was the most surreal pinch-me moment when you had to sit back and go, I can't believe I'm here?
A few things, really. A bit of Buckingham Palace. Been in there, 10 Downing Street. Had a party with the Prime Minister, which was Tony Blair at the time. Staying with celebrities and staying in their houses. It was weird, thinking, being in China, in the remote part of China where I don't think anybody even seen a white man in this area, and somebody's there with a magazine with me in it, asking me if I can sign it for it. And it's like, how do you know who I am? One of them had an Argos book. That's me signing the page with me darts and dartboard on Argos.
Is that the weirdest thing you've had to sign, the Argos catalogue, or is there anything else?
Well, my claim to fame was the Argos book was a little Chinese takeaway in Dublin, and the week before he recognised me. The owner did. Oh, you stay there, and he come out and he signed this. But the week before, Piers Morgan was in there, and he never recognised him. So I'm thinking, yes, he didn't recognise James Bond, but he got the power.
Brilliant. You mentioned about Target as well. You switched from Unicorn.
Love Target, absolutely love them. And I did. I mean, don't get me wrong. I had many good years at Unicorn, but it was time to move on. But Gary's become a really personal friend. He's not just my sponsor; he's my mate. And if he ever needed me for anything, if he was in trouble with anything, I'd be there, right by his side.
And you were one of the first big names to switch to Target, and you look at their stable of players now, it is stacked with world champions. I've been fortunate to attend a couple of the product launches. They do go the extra mile, but how much has their backing helped you during these last 10 years?
Target, they made me a fortune, I'll be honest with you. I think Gary Plummer, because I buy houses and rent them out, I think he's bought me about 14 houses. Every year I'll say, it's another one, Gazza, but I thank you. He'll just laughs his head off. So I don't waste my money now. I tend to invest it and try and make a profit on it, So I'm getting good returns on my investments. Plus the houses are going up in value as well.
Definitely. Well, we'd be here all day listing off all your accolades and where you've got houses, but one I've got to bring up, back in 2010, the BBC Sports Personality of the Year, finishing second. How proud a moment was that to get that recognition?
I was over the moon with it, yeah. That's me for a dart player, get to the runner-up in the BBC Personality. Is unknown of. It's never been known before, and to be voted, by the general public is a massive honour. I was over the moon with it. Gary Lineker thought I was puddled because he says, "You haven't won." I said, "Well, we have. Trust me, for a dart player, come runner up. It wasn't even on BBC. I'm on Sky. It's a massive, massive achievement for our sport."
Yeah, it's a great moment. And I was actually chatting to my hairdresser this morning, and I mentioned that I was chatting with you today, and he remembered a time years back when you bought a Bentley and some of the press gave you some stick for it. So do you think the media's perception of darts is changing now than it was during your pomp?
It wasn't the press that gave me stick, it was the players. I was trying all the time. I was always trying to, because I was a shareholder, and I thought, right, if I can get celebrities coming to the venues, because we were mates, the cameras will go on and it'll make our sport a lot more, recognisable, and it'll give us a bit more credibility. And then I bought myself a Bentley. Yeah, I did. I actually bought a Ferrari. I ended up not having it. I ended up getting a Bentley. My wife changed it for a Bentley, which I'm glad she did, really. And I thought, right, I'm fed up of people looking down their noses at us. So I bought myself something that people would recognise.
Fair enough. Well, just yesterday it was the Premier League Media Day, and I'm told there was more than 30 members of the media in attendance. It's the 20th Premier League this year. You were there from the start in 2005. It's come a long way in those 20 years, hasn't it? It's
hard work, trust me. It's not, the Premier League isn't so much hard work. I mean, it's a 3-day event as the Premier League, like any, because you've got to get there the night before, then you've got to play on the day after on a Thursday, and then obviously you travel on a Friday. So it's 3 days out of your life. It's not one. I mean, there's only 7 in a week. So it's 3 days play, travelling and playing. And then they've got tournaments like they'll play, they travel on the Wednesday, they'll play Thursday. Friday, I know they're in, I think it's Holland. So they'll be travelling Friday morning to Holland on an early plane, get to Holland, and then they'll be playing Saturdays and Sundays, and then they're back home Monday, and then back away again on Wednesday. It is a long chore, trust me, the Premier League. I did 13. I think it's 13 years I did, and by then I was 58, and it was a long slog for me. It was hard work at 58.
Well, a young man that's going to get to experience that for the first time this year, Lukeller, he's had a lot to do with that media interest in the game. Did you watch much of the Worlds in his run to the final?
I watched every game he played. I'll be honest with you, I really enjoyed it. I like Luke Humphries as well. I mean, I like most of the darts, to be honest. There's a few players I wouldn't watch. But young Luke, I thought he was a breath of fresh air, and I said this in all honesty as well. He's a good lad. He's a nice kid as well. I mean, I met him, and he's a nice, down-to-earth lad. He's got a lot of years ahead of him now, and if I was him, I'd just take my time a little bit. I mean, everybody's saying this. It's up to Luke what he does. He's got to earn the money, or he could earn a fortune in the next 2 years and have a nice life ahead of him, and make himself secure for the rest of his life. It's entirely up to him. I know he's got a good manager who looks after him and thinks about him. But it does make me laugh. I mean, when we started with the BDO, we were literally non-stop. You're playing 4 tournaments a day sometimes, and it was hard work. And it's when you've got a lot of money, your motivation isn't there. When you're skint and you've got to play, you don't even think about it. You just do it.
Well, I'm interested to get your thoughts on, people are calling it the Lukeller effect, but there's going to be lots of young boys and girls that now want to take up the game. Do you think?
Yeah, you're right. There is. I've got friends asking me, have you got any spare darts, Phil, for my son? He's like 9 years old because of this young Luke, see? It's brilliant. And it'll be the same in every sport. Football's the same. You have your lads and dads, and every one of them will have your Davy Beckham boots or your Messi boots. Everybody's got a dream of. Everybody needs somebody on a pedestal to look up to think, I want to be like him.
Well, let's get back to you then. And you announced a few months ago that 2024 is going to be your last year playing in the World Seniors. What was the main reason behind that decision?
Just my age, really, and how not so much I'm falling to pieces, but it's hard for me now, body wise, and I'm 64 this year, and it's harder for me to stand up there practicing for 2 hours a day and try and dedicate yourself. It takes its toll out of you. I've had my eyes done. I've had new lenses fitted, which has altered me throw altogether because I was always my left eye was my dominant eye. Now both eyes are perfect. So it's a different. When you're aiming your dart, it's not the same anymore. But I'd rather have good eyesight, than having reading glasses every 5 minutes. And now I can read everything now. It's brilliant.
Glad to hear it. And you're stepping away from the seniors at the end of the year. It is going to free up some more of your time. I know you've been asked about I'm a Celebrity. Could we see you follow in Eric's footsteps and go in the jungle?
We'll see what happens. I'm not holding my breath, to be quite honest with you. But Bob's onto it and said we'll see what happens and see what the offer is and whatever. It's I don't know. It's a plus and a minus with it. I'm a Celebrity. Your life's dragged into everything. So whether it's worth it, I don't know. We'll sit down and think about it. If we get invited, it all lifts and buts at the minute.
Well, we did see you on our screens before Christmas with Dennis Priestley doing the draw for the Worlds. Great to see you two both involved. Is there a chance we might see you more involved with Sky's coverage of the darts?
I won't be working with Sky, I don't think, but I will be working with the seniors. That's been planned for next year. Be like their ambassador.
Well, we look forward to that. And I remember when you retired from the PDC, you said that you wanted to do a lot more travelling. Is there anywhere you've got your eye on that you want to visit after you've finished up with playing the seniors?
Do you know me? I want to go to Greece because I've never been to Greece. Me, one I really want to go to is Italy. Really fancy Italy. So that's on my bucket list. Yeah, even though we haven't travelled because of COVID came and everything, so we didn't bother. We didn't bother travelling anywhere. But now we've got a bit more time coming, and I'm definitely first place I'm going is Italy.
And just lastly, your legacy in the game is set in stone. We still regularly hear your name being sung in the crowd. But when you look back on your career in the game, if you could go back and relive one moment, what would it be?
Oh, it's got to be the first World Championships. It's got to be. Just getting a phone call of Eric saying you've qualified, you're in the World Championship. I think I was 32nd place out of 32. And my odds were 125 to 1. I'm thinking, all my town, everybody that knew me all had like £10 and £20 on me, which was a lot of money for them. To win like $2,500 for 20 quid, it was brilliant. Even a little old lady come to me and she says, "Oh, Phil, I got £7.50 and left out my pension and I put it on you." She says, "I never bet." And she'd won like nearly £1,000, and it was, when you're thinking you could buy a terraced house for $7,500 in Burrs on them days, that was a lot of money for people. I worked behind the bar at the Huntsman, and lads were coming in who knew me. All the lads I was serving saying, "You just bought me missus a new car. You just paid for my holiday. I've got carpets and a new settee. Well done, Phil." I'm like, "You're welcome." They did better than I did.
Well, Phil, it's a pleasure to chat to you. Thanks very much for giving us some of your
time. No problems. Anytime, Alex. Ta.